Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the big interview, the first of this style, really, where we're sitting down with senior leaders of the union, talking about the big issues for us across a wide range of subject matters. None bigger, of course, than the ballot for industrial action, our biggest group of members in Royal Mail Group. So I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon by Terry Pullinger, Deputy General Secretary, Postal. Afternoon, Terry.
Afternoon, Chris.
Yeah, nice to see you, buddy, as always. So, Terry, no need to tell you there's a hell of a lot going on. We need to be consistent, clearly, as we have been throughout the last month or so, in saying we're going to speak about these issues separately because they're being dealt with very separately for obvious reasons. It's hard to know where to start, Terry, to be honest with you, but I'm going to come in on pay because obviously Royal Mail have made what is a big move to impose a 2% pay award on our members this week. That's been met with fury in offices across the UK, which obviously we're really proud of, and really proud of the members of sticking with their union. But just what's your take on the current situation on pay in Royal Mail, and obviously the national ballot that we're having to tackle that and to fight for a no strings attached pay rise?
Yeah, okay, Chris, no problem. I mean, first of all, if you don't mind, I want to put a big shout out for all of our members for having to work in the temperatures today. I mean, that's something they do, and it's a point I always make. Our members always get through, whether it's red hot like this, storms, rain, floods, snow, everything, wars, pandemics. That's the thing about postal workers. They always deliver, and that makes the point on days like this, and have great empathy with them. Having been a postman myself, that's tough. That must have been tough today. So thanks everyone for what you've done today. In respect of your question and on pay, obviously we've published the ballot timetable, Chris. We're on course, we believe, for that, on course to give notice to the employer on the 21st of June. Ballot opens 28th of June, open for 3 weeks because we're now covering across summer holidays, give everyone the chance to vote, and hopefully a magnificent announcement on the 19th when it closes, the biggest ever return, the biggest ever yes vote. I'd be surprised if that wasn't the case, because the way Royal Mail are treating our members now, and this trade union, by the way, after coming through such a historical period, really, a testing period, stressful period for everybody with a pandemic, to now be in this situation and being treated the way you are and patronised and insulted the way you are. I mean, we always generate a good return, a good yes vote, but this really should be the best ever, because it's just astonishing the situation we're in. So you're right to point out, Chris, and some of our members are pointing this out as well. Actually, I've seen some comments and I've received some correspondence myself from people who are trying to be as savvy as we are about the anti-trade union laws and not getting ourselves in a position that Royal Mail Group at times may be trying to pull us onto. Our ballot is about pay, Chris. It's about a no strings pay award that keeps pace with inflation, that rewards our members for everything they've done during the pandemic, first of all, and that's a big thing, but also gives them the best chance to protect them from this cost of living crisis. Our belief is the business could have adjusted itself to do that and still could. It didn't have to go early and give millions of pounds to shareholders. It could have fought this through and could have put our members first. And of course, what we've seen is they're not doing that. They're prioritising shareholders and profit, and not for 1 minute thinking about everything that was done during the pandemic and the challenges our members are having at this moment in time. So it's interesting seeing the CEO is out there now giving it large on videos about pay, how much they care about you, which is why they're imposing the 2% that they've offered, which is an absolute insult. And we'll get on to relationships later on. But that in itself is just antagonising people more. I mean, yeah, thanks very much. It's like after tax, less than £9. I've just put it in my car, Simon. I've got to the end of the road. It's just a ridiculous statement to say you're doing it to help people. And by the way, they should have done that when the union who knew that the challenges were coming, wrote to the business in February for a due pay rise in April, and put our claim in, and talks should have commenced, and we never saw them for 2 months. They're now putting 2% in. Here we are in July, and the CEO's saying it's because we're worried about the people. Well, why didn't you put it in April then? On the 1st of April, why didn't you put it in before that? There are other companies that have brought their pay rises forward to try and help their employees. So it's just nonsense. No one's believing it, and it's what our ballot is about. It's about pay and no strings payable. And basically, for weeks they were offering nothing. You didn't have nothing unless you agreed to some outrageous changes. That wasn't the conversation. We wanted just a straight pay deal with no strings. They said pay was inextricably linked to change. And then, when it suited them, and I think probably suited their narrative, they blinked and said, well, here is 2%. And now they've gone and put that in they're putting it in by executive action, as if somehow they're going to be applauded by all their employees, who I think are even more insulted by that than the first position the company had. So it's where we are, but people are right to point out the changes in a different set of talks, and we'll come on to that in a minute, Chris. So on this section on pay, without question, and to be crystal clear, we wanted a no strings pay award, inflation-based pay award, to reward our members and help them face up to this crisis we've got at the moment, the standard of living crisis, etc. The company have offered 2%, which they're now imposing, but that's what they've offered in negotiation to us. We've rejected that out of hand. It's totally inadequate, and that's what our ballot is about in respect of pay. Nothing else, just pay.
Thanks, Terry. Chris, you've been crystal clear there, and we have been consistently throughout the piece. I mean, I wanted to touch on sticking on pay, and you may want to move across to relationships, but I know we're going to cover that separately as well. But throughout this piece, and I think you said it the last time we had the chance to have a proper chat with you, is almost as if like the intelligence of our members is being insulted, with regards to, so for example, when you say, oh, I know we give £400 million to shareholders, we couldn't have given that to you, because that would have meant we'd have had to pay it on a recurring basis, admitting the fact that, that could have been a lump sum, a smaller percentage pay rise or whatever. And consistently saying things which are just blatantly untrue. So, for example, this post here, which I know will make you smile, this morning from Workplace from the CEO, I don't know if you can see that on your laptop, where it's the link is about food spending and the mental health hit by rising prices, a BBC survey says. And Simon's CEO says, team, we really need to get our situation sorted out and quickly. Almost like an absence of the reality of the situation, that the business of the people, the only people that can get this sorted, you as sort of the leader of the union has been consistently saying, we want a no strings attached pay rise. We deserve it. We put the country into mass profits. We deliver mass payouts for shareholders. This is what our members deserve, and it's affordable. That position hasn't changed. The only people who can change and add haste now, surely, Terry, are all male.
Yeah, listen, Simon Thompson's putting that stuff out because he's hanging on by his fingertips, isn't he? He's trying to save his job. Of course, he wants all this stuff they're trying to push through in quickly, because that might save his job and appease the board and shareholders and everyone else. It's not about our people. It's not about customers. Don't buy all that rubbish. These are desperate people, and they're totally inconsistent actually with all their comments. And it says something, doesn't it? This is for me, right? And this does annoy me. They're imposing 2% because they're really worried about you. And at the same time, when have we ever had a pay rise where running alongside it is all the information you need to go to the rolling ill fund, to get help on debt, for mental health and stress, because they know it's nowhere near enough. They know here's 2% because it's going to help you. But by the way, you'll probably need all this as well, all this support. Well, give them a decent pay rise. That's what people want, and that's what they're asking for. So, it's just, Chris, it's nonsense upon nonsense. It's now, it's become clear we're going to move on to the relationship bit. It's it's like Walter Mitty stuff, isn't it? Out there, especially coming from the CEO in all different platforms on this workplace. I don't go on that workplace, but people send me some of the stuff that's being put out on there. Outrageous, like attacking people. 1 minute we're attacking people because you're all taking liberties and you're not really sick when you're going off sick. Next minute, we're offering people 2%, and then got a whole list of help and support you can get if you're struggling. And it's a madness, and it needs sorting out. And something has drastically changed since January, and we will. We're battle every aspect of it. We're starting with pay because that's what our people deserve, and we submitted the claim in February. So when everyone's all this rubbish about, we've had months of talks with the CWU on it. He ain't. He's out there saying that, Simon Thompson. He ain't been nowhere near the talks. He ain't got a clue what's gone on in them talks. And I'll tell you, nothing's gone on in them talks because we've sat there and said, we want a no strings paid deal, make us an offer. And for weeks, his little firm was sitting in there going, no, you can't have nothing unless you agree all these changes. Not even negotiate them, agree them. You couldn't have money until you've agreed them changes. And then you couldn't have some more money until it was deployed. Absolute rubbish what they're talking about. And we've been in months of talks, trying really hard with the CW. They ain't trucked them. Right hand don't know what the left hand's doing. They take over 3 days to write a simple letter because they've got to pass it through everybody on the board. If people knew the truth, they'd realise even more than I think they do now what nonsense the man is talking.
Thanks, Terry. Fantastic. I mean, I want to say one more question on the pay, because I know we're going to be doing tons and tons of comms with you in the coming weeks to make sure we deliver the biggest possible yes vote. And I think,
we will.
Yeah, completely. And I think, the other thing to say about Royal Mail's communications is probably even ahead of you, Terry, or the leadership or the communications or the gate meetings, Simon's probably our best weapon at the minute. So, I mean, the reaction from our members has been fantastic, and they're not wavering, and we all know that. But how important is it then for you now that we aren't complacent, because we're going to deliver a yes vote. We know that we're going to smash the threshold. We know that people are motivated, people are angry. We know that, but we're not leaving any stone unturned, do we? We need a meeting in every single office in the country, surely. Yeah,
because we are empathetic, and we know people are struggling. It's part of the reason we've took the strong line from the first place. Deserve it, but they need it, on both counts. And there's no doubt about it. Our employer, Royal Mail Group, is playing on that. Now, we're seeing it in other walks of life as well, but this is our dispute. And they're absolutely playing on that. And they're working on the theory that people can't afford to stand up for themselves, can't afford to stand collectively and demand better. But, and our pitch on that is we understand that. It will be difficult. It's bumpy now. It's really hard for people now. Some of the stories you've been talking about, Chris, on the social media about people struggling with their pay, etc. But it's one of those situations where you can't afford not to. You can't, I tell you now, we can't let them, you can't open this gate because it will flood through. I dread to think what other proposals they would have coming behind the sort of stuff they're talking about now. And it's not new. We've had it before, a lot of it. We've faced up to it before. But it's important we keep it in the appropriate boxes and in our minds. And we judge each of those boxes on their merit. And on the box on pay, you have been offered for everything. Our members, for everything they've done during the pandemic. Don't forget, you spoke about the money going to shareholders of 400 million. Don't forget, when we got the agreement, Royal Mail, so this was in the early parts of 2021, Royal Mail was predicting a potential loss of between £500 and £600 million a year. Loss, not profit making, loss, right? And they were having to tell that to the shareholders, and they had to hold back on the dividends. So sometimes you have to give shareholders bad news, and sometimes it's great news, isn't it? But what was great news is because of all the change our members worked with, and that was horrific for a lot of them, and that was difficult, but it was important. I've said before, we proved we were honouring our agreement, and we were genuine about turning around the fortunes of the company because of embracing all that change, record change, phenomenal record-breaking change was put in, plus the fortune, plus dealing with the pandemic, social distancing, one in a van, all the problems that were there, headwinds as well, real headwinds for a working person on the, doing the job in Royal Mail as a key worker, real headwinds, not the headwinds they talk about. Despite all that, it was £1 billion turnaround in the business in just over a year for them to announce a 700 odd million pound profit that they've just announced, right? So of course they could have said to shareholders, if they was having a conversation with shareholders when they were looking at such a loss, and be patient, and we're on we're redesigning and reinventing our operation, everything that's been said, which we've worked with them on. Now you're in that position, you would think you'd say, well, clearly, we're still on the journey, the medium long term, that's good. But listen, we've got to reward our greatest asset, our people. We got to look after them. They've really stepped up. They've stepped up for the nation. They've stepped up for the company. They, off of their backs, there was £1 billion turnaround. And whilst you might have a slice, they got to have a bigger slice. They need a decent pay rise. They got to stick with the be able to cope with the cost of living crisis. And by the way, we want people still on this journey. We want to take the people with us, not push them away from us. And that's what they've done. Some bright spark sitting somewhere, whether it's Simon Thompson or it's in a boardroom or wherever it is, some bright spark has decided, no, I'll tell you now it looks like we're coming out of the pandemic. We're in a much better financial position than we were when we went into it. We'll start, all we want to do now is get on well with our shareholders and make sure they get some dough. And by the way, we'll just give it to the workforce. We'll take them on because we think they're vulnerable. Well, I'll tell you, someone has made a massive, massive mistake, because postal workers ain't like that. They'll work away, they'll cope, they'll moan and groan like everyone else. But you try and give it to them, you're taking the mick out of them like they are now, then they will stand up. I just know we will. I know we will massively stand up. And they'll try and blame this union, but I tell you, all the documentation's there, Chris. We've been trying to talk to them since January on change, actually, since February on pay, and we ain't seen them for dust. And then they turn up in April and go, here, that's what we're going to offer you. Unacceptable, disgraceful, disgusting, disrespectful to the postal workers of the United Kingdom, and we ain't putting up with that.
Thank you, Terry. Strong words for a strong moment. I think it's absolutely spot on, buddy. So I want to clearly move away from the issue of pay and the national ballot we've got, which is, again, to keep reiterating about pay, into Royal Mail. I've been sharing some of the, Simon Thompson told us a couple of weeks ago, last time I spoke to you, that, when we're at the DRP, we'll share some of our ideas on change, and I think you're going to like them. I didn't see many members liking their ideas this week when they were sharing their materials in and around change. But one thing that struck me, Terry, and I'll ask you to give sort of an overview of where you think they're coming from and where we're coming from on the issue of change. But one thing that struck me was the lack of vision in their plan, and the lack of vision for the future, and the distinct opposite to the union. The policy forum we held recently in Liverpool, where we brought together every senior rep in the union to talk about what the future for Royal Mail could look like for our members, for the union, and for the company, and an excellent in-depth set of discussions across a couple of days. And then you get Royal Mail come to the table with basically the same old rubbish they've been trying to ram in front of the union consecutively over the years. I saw someone say yesterday that this plan was just recall backs dusted off with a bit of new branding. What would your view on what they're saying to our members be, what change they're seeking, and the next steps for the union on that?
Well, people saying that are right. They're absolutely right. And the thing is with the trade union, and I see people going, you've been sucked into it again, the union or me or whoever. But of course we don't. We make agreements, and I want Royal Mail Group. I want it to still be here. When I'm dead and gone, I want my grandchildren to still be seeing, into their adult life, still seeing the postal worker coming up the garden path, still connecting everybody in this country. And times are getting harder and harder, and that social inclusion is going to be more important than ever. So, of course, when we have a row, we get ourselves into a position where we can move things forward, deal with the changes in society, because they are there, they are real. but deal with it in a mutual interest way, in a way that's beneficial both for the postal workers and the shareholders and anyone else, but protects this great public service as well. So, and they've signed up to that. That ain't just our vision, is it? They've signed up to it. They signed up to it in the pathway to change. So we come out of January. It was really towards the end of 2021 and going into January. It was becoming even increasingly difficult for us because they were sacking and getting rid of all their managers, weren't they? So the managers that we'd been taking the agreement for, with gradually one by one, they disappeared. After time, we didn't know who we were talking to, didn't know who was turning up at a meeting, etc., etc. So that was chaos created by the CEO and his plans on what he wanted for the managerial workforce. Never took into account, never factored in that you need that sort of seamless transition. Even if you're bringing in new managers, it's up to them whether they think the ones ain't good enough and they want to bring new ones in. But they still had a duty to our agreement, and they still had a duty of respect to this trade union. So, of course, we do that until they turn on us, and then we go the other way. So it's important. We have to build relationships. All these things are really important to getting the right deal for our members, for this great public service, and the success of Royal Mail. Those things are massively important. So you make a deal, you have to then go with it. You don't make a deal and then immediately go to war or work against the agreement. And that's not what we've done. So in the sort of hiatus, if you like, that was being created by all their managerial changes and everything else, and the drag effect that was having on our progress, we had our policy for it. So you're right, Chris, I've got a document here, 100 pages. 100 pages. The subject matters we discussed with all of our activists: strategic direction, pay and reward, productivity and efficiency, culture, pipeline, future of delivery and collections, future of processing, network and direction, future of parcel force, future of fleet and engineering, policies, all stuff they're trying to touch on now, and the future of other business units. That 100-page and policy is set, and policy has been set against the commitments in the pathway to change agreement. That's the union being progressive. That's the union trying to move things forward. That's what I'm saying. All the evidence is there, not just in meetings with them, but what we were doing as an organisation to try and build on the pathway to change, which was about growth. You touched on growth. The agreement is clear, it's specific in there, that we're going to look for growth and revenue generation above just letters and parcels. Other things we could do. Now, the CEO's been out there many a time, giving it large, isn't it, on all the things he wants to do, and the medical things, and the new penny black and 7-day stamp and all this all that, loads of PR on it, but we ain't seen nothing, and it ain't generated any new revenue. One of the big things in there that we had was more localised, where people could look at local companies. Our reps and local managers could work on what other things could we offer them people, what other stuff that might bring revenue in, all this sort of stuff. So again, proactive. No. That all that's just been brushed aside now. The thing that's the most urgent thing in the world is to go back to what they wanted to do after the 4 pillars when Rico Back was in. But for all his faults, Rico Back, we knew what he was, but he never hid it. You know what I mean? He never disguised what he was. He was what he was, and that was that, which is totally different now. But of course, it's all being exposed now. And again, we'll touch on a bit of that with relationships later on. But some of them proposals, definitely, the proposals on change, guys, and we've circulated the initial stuff Royal Mail give us to our reps, not to confuse it with our pay dispute at all. But of course, management are out there talking to people about these changes. And on their comms, they're contradicting themselves all the time, but they have been specific in saying the pay talks are finished. Pay talks are finished. We're now going to, and you're doing what you're doing, and we're now going to talk about change. And then, of course, they start to elaborate that if you accept these changes, there's more money for you. A massive, great, another 1.5%. And a bonus scheme no one's ever seen that's going to give you even more. So they're out there saying that there's 5.5 we've offered to CW. It's absolute crap. They haven't. No, that's all jam tomorrow stuff. And if the same people promoting that, like Simon Thompson, who's been the same person promoting all these wonderful things we're going to do and this other revenue generation stuff that's never materialised, that bonus scheme will be the same. Won't never materialise for you guys, I'll tell you now. And the plans they're saying won't work in any case. So you might not even get the other bit they were promising you, not that it's enough. So, and they are proposals that we've seen before. They are dressed up differently, but we are clearly seeing an attitude now where we'll have a chat with a union, we'll go through a process, we pretend we're negotiating, and then when push comes to shove, we just impose it. That's the sort. As I said before, it's P&O in sheep's clothing. And that's what this is about. So all that stuff you're hearing is waffle. I mean, pushing the operation back 2 or 3 hours. So people now on deliveries, etc. I mean, it affects everybody, of course, in every function. Parcel folks, exactly the same proposals are coming to you. They're talking about your duties starting 2 or 3 hours later into the day. And so 2 or 3 hours later, you'll be finishing. This is what they're talking about, is surrendering the AM period. So everyone we compete with are out there delivering in the AM period. We're going to be the progressive company that only delivers in the afternoon and evening. And on that, we're meant to build all these new products as well. So, and I heard Simon Thompson in the video today, team, on my life, team. He's only got one team now, and that's the boardroom and shareholders. He ain't got the people who work with Royal Mail, and he needs to stop deluding himself that they're his team, because like in some of these proposals, for instance, you don't. I'll tell you now something about teams. You don't keep a good team if you start giving them different terms and conditions. Some of the team are getting less than others. That don't create a good team. You don't create a good team when you start pointing the fingers at individuals that may have illness, that could be mental illness and all, that they're off sick, but you're targeting them as everyone's shysters. You don't create a good team like that. You ain't got no team. No one's falling with that. Well, you have, but it's not the employees. It's not the people we represent. So things like that, pushing the surrender in the AM period, it isn't going to make us look a progressive company. It isn't us taking over the world. It isn't us introducing all new products and services. We're doing what the customer wants, he says. But what about if the customer wants it in the morning? We're going to have to say no, haven't we? We can't do it. So, it's been the competitive edge, has been customer convenience, and the speed with which you can turn things around has been the customer edge. It's the same with the issue of using the green agenda to take out planes. That was in a previous proposal. It wasn't badged under the green agenda, but it was taking out planes because they cost a lot of money, and we can make the network cheaper if we make it later. And that means we make loads more money, and we can give more money to shareholders, but not to you, the guys that are going to have to suffer the consequences of those changes, as well as of course, the customers suffering that as well, with Royal Mail not being visible in the AM period, for instance. But that's got nothing to do with the green agenda. The green agenda is never going to see all planes taken out of the sky. The aviation industry, I've said it before, is going to do what it can on fuel or how they, propel planes, etc., which will try and help on that. But no one foresees a world in the future without planes. And yes, we should be utilising planes, trains, automobiles, everything. Of course we should, to give the best possible service and have the best possible network. Our agreement was about 24/7. Our agreement was from 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. All of these things they're going against the agreement on, and I'll tell you now, it's a dash for cash. That's all it is, and it's got nothing to do with protecting this great public service or reinventing Royal Mail or any of the strap lines that at the moment it seems that people like Simon Thompson thinks we're all going to fall for. No one's falling for it, mate.
No, I think that's absolutely spot on, Terry. I was watching the CEO yesterday on Sky News talking about modernising the company, and I was thinking about down the line, obviously, if we need to, have a second row with the company in and around change, about the prospect of yourself and the other officers being on the media, and thinking like the point you were making there about the pushing the network and the structures later, and thinking like, how genuinely can a company go to the media and claim they're modernising something, and the result of the modernisation is the product gets there later? It's like totally and utterly bonkers, isn't it?
Well, and modernising Royal Mail, apart from the fact we've got a firm commitment to the 35-hour week, we've had it in our last 2 agreements. So the 4 pillars and the pathway to change, that's what we're working to. And how we cover 7 days by having more inventive duty patterns, So where there's a mutual interest solution to that, people doing 3 or 4 day weeks, whatever, which we've written to the company on a number of occasions, certainly Mark Walsh as the outdoor secretary, how can we do that? How can we do trials, etc. And when we was all working together, that was all on. Suddenly it all disappeared. But I don't see modernising Royal Mail meaning new entrants come in on a 40-hour week. Presentation we had last week was that, like, it was in Fleet, for example, people there don't get paid meal breaks. They were going to have to do 40-hour week and then half-hour meal break, unpaid meal break each day. So that takes them to like a 42 and a half or whatever working week. That's modernisation, is it? I tell you what, it's modernisation that treads on all the workers and just maximises profit and stuffs the pockets of CEOs, board members, and shareholders. That's all it does. Let's not badge that as modernisation, really, putting people back on a 43-hour week. I mean, it just beggars belief that they think it is so insulting to the intelligence of our members that they really think they're going to buy that. They're going to go with them, vote with Simon. Yeah, well, let's see. Well, I'll tell you what then. When we get a massive yes vote, if he ain't already done it, because there's reasons why he should do it now, in my opinion. We'll come on to that in a minute. Then if we get a massive yes vote, the geezer should resign because he's obviously lost his team, hasn't he, that he keeps going on about. But it ain't modernisation. It's making life worse for everyone. And as I say, it's surrendering huge parts of a 24-hour day, which every other competitor is maximising. It's not modernisation. I tell you what, it's the pillage of a great public service. It's privatisation at work, and that's all they care about. There's loads of money in their meals, as they see it, and they want to come and take it. And everything he's out there talking about is fool's gold, mate, and no one's going to buy it.
Spot on, Terry. I want to move now, conscious of time for yourself. And I know you've got a lot going on, but so I want to move on to relationships, and also try and balance it. And I know you will too. Obviously, we had a clearly difficult period of industrial relationships with Recall back. When Simon Thompson came in, things improved. He's certainly got himself about and got out and about in workplaces. He's, moved a number of key issues forward at the start of his period with yourself, as Deputy General Secretary Postal, and relationships did genuinely seem to improve for a period. And now I think, your analogy earlier on, I think there's definitely a feel of almost survival mode he's gone into now, which is, and it also feels as if a little bit the members I've seen commenting saying that the mask has slipped a little bit as well. But we're certainly now seeing a complete transformation in his whole attitude, whilst weirdly still at the same time trying to pretend we're all on the same team, but his actions stay completely different. What has changed in the relationship, Terry, and what do you think's gone wrong?
Well, it's it's as disappointing as it is annoying because and I mean it. I've got a huge passion for Royal Mail Group, for the whole thing, the whole public service. I mean, it should never be privatised. Could have been a not-for-profit or whatever. It did lack investment, all this sort of stuff. But conceptually as well, the way, we keep every single person connected, no matter who they are. And if things get worse with this financial crisis, people are going to need that even more. They desperately need it through the pandemic. So over 500 years, it's constantly proved what a magnificent sort of invention it is to the social history of this country. But the fact is, it has to keep being defended, and it falls on us to do it. No one else is going to do it. No one else does it. So, I'm proud. I'm proud that we step up and whatever happens, sort of win, lose or draw, we stand up because it's the right thing to stand up for this great public service, but also the people who spend most of their lives in it as well, dedicated people, the wonderful vocational sense of purpose, all that stuff. I believe in it. Now, people might think, I'm a mug, I don't know. I believe in it. So we've been constantly waiting for the right managerial attitude. You know what I mean? Not one that's just focused on profit and shareholders and everything else. We know it's all got to be factored in, but, have a more of a philanthropist view about the way you take this great organisation forward. We've seen other privatisations, exactly what they've done. They split everyone asunder. They start attacking the workforce, start attacking the trade union, all this sort of stuff. So we get agreement. Rico back goes, only 18 months, and they sack him. They knew it weren't the right way. And then comes Simon Thompson on the Pathway to Change agreement. So, I mean, I didn't know the guy from a bar of soap. So I start from the position you give everyone a chance. And I like to think they give me a chance. And you build a relationship. And I have to say, I've had a good relationship with him. I have more access to him, more conversations than I've ever had with any other CEO. When you're talking and meeting that amount of time and sussing out, mapping out the direction and how we're making progress and things like that. You also talk about other issues. You talk about family stuff. You talk about all sorts of things. So, I've had no problem with the relationship. I had great hope for this different approach. I think everyone would agree. We've never seen a CEO that's gone out in the workplace so much, that's gone and spoke to the workers, if you like, as much, which you genuinely hope that gives them a far better empathy with the people in the organisation, and can understand where the union's coming from and why there is absolutely a need to improve the culture. Because, there's been many years people have been trying to give it to our members, different managers, etc., and they don't deserve it. Our members don't deserve it. The postal workers for Royal Mail Group, etc., and Parcel, they don't deserve it, because they do a great job. But we've had it, the lack of investment in workplaces. Some of them are quite Dickensian, aren't they? Some of our workplaces, the lack of investment in that, as I say, and the lack of investment in the people and the way they're portrayed at times. And you've got to do more, and you're not working hard enough and stuff like that. So you need people that actually go into the workplace and see it, because I defy anyone not to walk into our workplaces and be amazed at what our people do. And for a start, how they get the mails and parcels sorted, how they get them out the door. But then what they do out on the street, we've got people walking, average, I would imagine, sort of 9 miles a day doing this job. In this sort of weather we've had today, and all other weathers as well, of course, all other stuff that affects them. So having a CEO who's out there so much, you think, well, that's all right. And certainly in lots of the things he was saying, where he himself, definitely, two things that were aligned on straight away, me and him, was one about you need to change the culture of how people are spoken to and how they're treated. And also the trust. There was no trust. There was no trust for the employer. There was no trust locally at any level within the union. And that needed sorted out. And they were two key planks to how we take things forward. Because in my view, culture touches everything. You change the culture, people respond better. They know it's in the best interest. They know it's worthwhile to them, etc. And they know they're going to get a fair crack in that situation. And we were on course for all of that. I've just said to you, record turnaround, in a record amount of change, a record amount of automation. That's not because of him. It's not because of Simon Thompson. And it's because we were working together and we was honouring the agreements, etc. Now that's all changed. So I genuinely believed he was a certain type of person. He likes to. Simon Thompson likes to, like a lot of them, but you've got the impression he meant it. Likes to lay on the table his working class credentials. His granddad being a miner who supported Arthur Scargill and all that sort of stuff. Talks about it in almost romantic terms, and says he sort of wonders what his granddad would think of him now. Well, I'd have a stab at it. I'd have a stab at if that's where your granddad was in his life. He'd just see you as another Ian McGregor or whatever who gave it to the miners, backed by an anti-union Tory government. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Was Thatcher, now it's Boris Johnson. And they've done nothing in terms of what P&O did to people, which everyone knows was unlawful and disgraceful on any level. And these companies have become boldened by that. So from pressure from either shareholder or the board, the man has changed. He's dropped. Do you know, there's a thing where you say you can lose money in life, and you'll sort it out. You'll get past it. You can lose elements of your health, but you can still cope. You'll still sort of keep going. But what you can't lose is your principles. You can't lose that. And you've got to have a sense of honour about you. And when you've put yourself out there, like Simon Thompson has, and the way he spoke to postal work, and the way he's gone into workplaces, and the way he spoke about his past and all that sort of stuff, it's gone. It's not real anymore. He absolutely, in my opinion, his character has been assassinated by this. It means it wasn't real in the first place. So all the talk of trust has just been absolutely obliterated. It's one of the big things with the trust agenda, and getting his managers, this was his position, getting his managers to genuinely make an effort on trust, was to tell them that if you didn't get a trust score of 70, no one would get any bonus. The high level managers as well. So, and I'm not digging out local manager or anything else. I'm just saying that's what was said. Stand on me. If we don't get a score of 70, they're not getting a bonus, nor am I. Well, they didn't get a score of 70. It was less than 70, 68, I think it was. They didn't make the threshold of bonus, which would mean they certainly wouldn't pay us if we had a bonus scheme and didn't make the threshold. And he's going to pay it out. They're going to pay themselves. He's going to pay himself. Everyone else, all his new managers, I suppose, they're all going to get a bonus based on that, even though the position was, unless we reach 78 again. So that's trust gone. No matter how you dress it up, yeah, but it's been difficult. Yeah, of course it has. No matter how you dress it up, they're going to weigh themselves out, and they're breaching a promise there. They're breaching something that was said. That's trust gone. So, that and the behaviour the other day. And I still try, because these are difficult times. I still think I know, it's essential you have good relationships, and I literally give people every chance. I'm telling you, whether people think, well, you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't have done that in the first place, you should have known. Yeah, all right, you have to do this job, and you have to deliver agreements, and to do that, good agreements, you really want a good understanding, a good relationship across the table. But the other day for me was the final straw, and I think it was for lots and lots of people. Because asking me to come to, almost begging me to meet you even in the evening or first thing in the morning, a ridiculous time of the day, when I thought it might be a move, something positive, because we're going into talks next week. So something we could use to get the right deal for our members. I turn up there and there's a load of waffle, and slipped in there is that, we're thinking about imposing the 2%. And I told people on the train when I was trying to get my head around it, I'd counselled them not to do that. Don't do that. You've already destroyed the trust. You've already insulted them enough. Don't go doing that. And unbeknown to me, the material, the comms was already going out, and I'm going off to another meeting. And he leaves me and goes over to Greenwich and does his video and all that. Never told me, none of that. So that's it. It's done. In that respect, he's dead to me in terms of relationships. You don't do that to me twice. I'll give everyone a chance. And then that's the end of it. His whole act has now been exposed as an act, unfortunately. Now, whether he believes it ain't an act or not, that's how everyone is seeing it now. So where it was a progressive CEO that genuinely cared about his people and wanted to get out and speak to be a man of the people, and everything else, touch hands and the hearts and minds and look at me, I'm a good guy or whatever. That's gone now. So he'll still be going out there, but when he walks in them buildings now, he's not this progressive CEO who's different from anything we've had before, and will generally try and look out after us. What he is now, he looks, I don't know, he looks like a sort of 1970s double glazing salesman, doesn't he? All bouncy and smiley and promising the earth, and it's fool's gold. It's fool's gold. And every one of our members, I'm telling you, it's so incredible how they underestimate the intelligence and the character of our members and us as trade unionists. Listen, if it looks like a rat and it smells like a rat and it feels like a rat, it is a rat, isn't it? And that's where it is. That's where it is now. And the desperate attempts to try and recover it. The last couple of videos I've seen, and putting scissors out. This will please everyone. Look, I'm cutting the ribbon at the new hub, and it's really going to make your life better. And it's just ludicrous, honestly. I just can't believe that he doesn't realise that his whole any view people add on him as being a progressive and being true to his word and being all that, I just cannot believe he doesn't realise that that's in the bin. My personal view, I might be wrong here. This might help him. I think he's a dead man walking. I think this dispute and everything else, I think he's overpromised. He's probably been over optimistic. If he's doing it with us, he's probably done it in other rooms like board rooms and with shareholders. And I think now everyone is starting to see through it, whether you're in their camp who wants to give it to us, or whether you're in our camp with the people, the genuine workers of Royal Mail. Everyone's gone, this geezer's a fake. That's how people are seeing it now. And they might not like that, but it's the truth. Go out and test it. And I tell you what, I'll have a stab at what his old granddad would think. I think he'd be disgusted with the behaviour that you should be doing this to ordinary working people and people that have responded to you, believed in you, trust you, and have delivered for you in the last year in a way they haven't for any other CEO. And then you turn out to be just as bad. Well, I think it's worse, actually. I think it's worse than someone like Rico Back, who at least didn't hide what he was. So it's P&O in sheep's clothing, and it's a progressive CEO in sheep's clothing, but unfortunately that clothing's fallen off him now. So I don't think he's got any chance of winning back the respect. Well, certainly not of me, but I don't think of the employees and our members in Royal Mail Group.
I think you're spot on, Terry. And I don't expect you to comment at length about this because obviously we don't represent them. Another trade union does, our friends at Unite, but also the first CEO in certainly a generation and certainly since the 1992 Trade Union Act, when unions had to conduct official industrial action ballots via the post, the first trade CEO ever to be facing an industrial action ballot and potential strike from his own managers.
He's totally lost the dressing room, mate. He's lost. To use a sports analogy, he's totally lost the dressing room. And in any other walk of life, especially in sport, you lose the dressing room, you're gone. And that's what's going to happen. He'll be gone. Now, there'll be attempts during this, same as last time. There'll be attempts to try and embarrass me, I expect, or embarrass this union. Listen, water off a duck's back. I stand a chance of embarrassing myself every time I do something like this. But they won't embarrass me. Because I don't say I'm something special. I don't say I'm no great intellect. I've always said this. And you won't embarrass me because I'm honoured to do this job. I am honoured to represent postal workers. I really am. I absolutely believe that. It's been my life. And I'm honoured to try and protect this great public service. So you won't embarrass me. You won't embarrass me intellectually. It won't embarrass me anywhere. Any media, if our members are taking action, which I believe they will, I'll be the proudest one in front of everyone telling them why we're doing it. But don't insult our intelligence. And Chris, I've said it before, and I mean it. You know the score. All of us know the difference between excrement and clay. I'd like to say it in the stronger terms, but I don't. It's not appropriate now. But everyone knows what I mean. We know. He's out there, and it's clear now, unfortunately, and it is a massive disappointment to me. But he's been peddling fool's gold, and when push comes to shove, whether he believed it at the time, this is the biggest thing. He has not defended the employees of Royal Mail Group, the people he's got closer to than any other CEO. When push comes to shove and the pressure's on him, he has not defended those people in the boardroom or with shareholders. He's trying to sell us down the river just to appease them and trying to desperately sell something, as I said, be a salesman on fool's gold. And he's wasting his time because we don't even have to explain that to our people. As I said, they know that this is a rat and we ain't going to have it. We won't have it. We will stand up and fight.
Brilliant, Terry. I'm sure we can get maybe the excrement and clay. Maybe we could have a post watershed session in the next couple of the weeks, and you can spell it out a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. But absolutely, I would, Chris. And I know, you don't want to reduce to profanity. Although, where I come from, that's part of normal conversation for a lot of people. But and I think the temptation is because it's quite expressive. There's no doubt in where you're coming from when you say certain things. But I don't want to get into that. I truly want to make the point to people. listen, I say I'm disappointed for our members. That's what I'm disappointed for. With me, it's almost like, well, you try to I get older and older. I'll always give someone a chance. It's like you try it again, and they've mugged on that relationship. I would have preferred. I don't think I would have felt as strongly, actually, in terms of a relationship point of view, if they hadn't said nothing to me. But drag me to a meeting at that time of the day to tell me you're thinking about it, knowing full well the stuff's already going out. Yeah. And I'll tell you now, I genuinely believe they're out there saying, we're going to talk about the change. Yeah. This is the reason that we got to stand up massively, even before the ballot paper comes out, Chris. We got to keep the meetings up. We got to keep the members. They got to understand, the risk here, because what that has demonstrated, and I'm not going to believe any of it in any way, shape or form that this ain't going to happen now. What that has demonstrated, taking executive action on this union, which has been done before on pay by Crozier, another unionator, absolutely. He tried to impose change on us. We're still here, aren't we? We're still fighting. You really think it hurts? And that ain't hurt us. You've gained nothing out of that. In fact, you've given us more support. That's what they've done in treating us in this way. So, I have no doubt whatsoever. We have to keep the pressure up, because if they've done it on pay, then they might do it on change. For all we know, they've already given notice on planes, which means they had no intention of negotiating. This is how it feels now. We ain't even had the proper people in the room, although they're saying they're going to be in the room next week. The proper people, they've disrespected us on that. So for him to be out there, we've been in genuine talks with the CWU. It's just him once again being economical with the truth, because he ain't even put the top team in there, and he ain't even been in the room himself. So all I'm doing is telling you how it is, and I'm sure people would prefer that.
I think that's absolutely spot on, buddy. I'm going to give you, obviously, I've kept you for almost an hour, Terry, and I know the members will massively appreciate it. And I know, obviously, now we're into a period over the next sort of week, 10 days, which is going to be like getting the vote out, and we're going to be having our national gate meeting day. We're going to be having home mailings, drop-in with members. We're going to launch our new peer-to-peer text messaging service. So to the members there, you may get a text from Terry. Make sure you answer it. It definitely is going to be in, by the way. So make sure you're answering it. We've got loads and loads of comms to come to get the vote out. But I wondered at this juncture, just for a moment or so, what your final message today would be, Terry.
Well, I think my message is, we just seem to be in this period of life, don't we? So I want to put a big shout out, because tomorrow, Saturday, we're going to be up in London demonstrating with, all the other unions in the TUC, many of them that are going through very similar problems, and solidarity to them. Massive shout out for our BT members that are filling in their ballot papers now. Stand together, stick together. This is one of those major important times in life when you've got to stand up. Stand up. You'll never regret it. You'll always be forever proud of yourself. Shout out to all our post office members. A small group of members that are really being brave, I think, and still taking industrial action for the same reasons, for the way they've been treated as well. And of course, for the members in Royal Mail Group, just remember, listen, it's this. We seem to have entered a period of time where suddenly employers think it's okay to not only treat workers the way they are, but also take us back to sort of terms and conditions, etc. Take us right back to, just after the Second World War or something like that, when working people had to stand up again. It's one of those moments, and we have our individual ballots, and we'll get our individual agreements. But we never ever, unfortunately, get what we deserve. We get what we negotiate, but you only do that if you're negotiating from a position of strength. You are our strength, without question. I can be as angry and we can shout as loud as we like. We can give it large everywhere, but unless we've got you behind us, then we are nothing. You want us to sort this out, I promise you, we'll everything in our being we will give to sort this out for you and get the right agreement. But we need the backing. And on this particular one, and I know this is an easy call, but I tell you, we in the last 4 years, what we had, Chris, 3 national ballots, where we smashed the threshold, amazing turnaround, amazing turnouts, amazing yes votes. We need the biggest one ever now, across everywhere, across our businesses, but especially in Royal Mail, because if we're going to inspire other working people to stand up, which is what they want to do, by the way, and some people haven't been there, haven't done it like we've done it. We're a fighting trade union. We've got to inspire them. We've got to show we don't just moan about the situation. We're prepared to do something about it, and we back our trade union. So keep getting the message out to the members, because they're, by the looks of it, Chris, they're going to bombard people now with their comms. And just remember, it's fool's gold. Anything they're talking about is fool's gold. These are not genuine people. They've demonstrated they're not genuine. They're underhanded people, the way they behave and the way they deal with people and relationships, etc. They are not to be trusted, and you stick with your trade union.
Spot on, Terry. So I think that's a fantastic interview, and we've set out so well there, Terry, where we are on all of the key issues. And so thank you for your time. Also look forward to seeing you tomorrow in London for the TUC demo. I think it's going to be a great day, as you said, for the whole movement and for our union. And as well as thanking Terry, to thank all of you who've taken the time to watch this hour session. It's been a really excellent one. We'll bring you over the weekend a shorter roundup of this, and we'll also bring you a written version as well, for those who like to digest content in different ways. But from Terry and myself, take it easy, and we'll see you all soon.